MCKK, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning, I bid to the wise panel of educators, meticulous timekeepers, worthy opponents, fellow comrades on side of government, and to everyone present witnessing this debate today. In this speech, I will clarify the scope of the debate. Then I will explain who the stakeholders are and why change is necessary. And finally, I will lay out our main argument. Now, narrowing the scope of the debate. So, the subject of the motion. The debate is about parents or the guardians teaching their kids about politics. So, what do we mean by politics? By politics, we mean teaching their kids about the election system, about the voting process, policies, and current affairs. So, how do we characterize the act of actively discussing politics? We believe that it's not to force political ideology that by the parents, but rather to ensure that their kids are not misinformed later in life by the internet and other sources. Now, who are the main stakeholders in this debate? The main stakeholders are the parents and the children. So, what do the children need? They need to understand the world. They need to know how politics work so that they can choose better leaders in the future. So, who supplies these needs? Mainly schools and media, which are limited or biased, because as we all know, the media, social media will provide content tailored to your preferences, which means that it will only give you suggestions based on your recent view history. So you won't get new education from a source that is from something that you haven't seen before, or something that you weren't previously interested in. So why do we think change is justified? So youth political literacy is dropping globally. Misinformation is rising in terms of the younger generation. Why is this happening? Children form political opinions based on social media, such as TikTok videos, YouTube, Instagram, and other such platforms. So the status quo has failed. Parents often avoid political discussions to protect their kids or avoid large family conflict. But we believe that by parents teaching their kids from an early age, it will ensure that their kids know how to form a fair opinion, how to judge people based on their worth, and not just based on what they've been fed by social media and biased people. So, what are the problems in the status quo today? Misinformation and political polarization are everywhere. The loss of critical thinking and political understanding among youth becomes dangerous for democracy. Why is this? This is because in the future, when the youth are handed the responsibility to vote for the person who they believe should become the next leader and should lead them, they won't be able to choose properly because they'll be fed purely by what these political leaders are doing on social media. For example, they may post the good acts on social media, but all of those may just be a pre-election act, and they may not carry that on forward later after they have been elected. Now, the second problem, apathy towards politics. Many young people don't vote because they feel that their opinion doesn't matter enough, and they feel powerless. They feel that even if they vote, the people who they want, who they choose, might probably not, might not get elected because it's only them.
This house believes that parents should engage in political discussions with their children.
Now,
Opening government.
now,
UI,
yes.
why are the impacts that you get from actively discussing it with children so important to the building of the future generation? Please engage with this contention.
Our answer is political literacy, so that they are able to choose the right leaders in the future. They, or they can make informed decisions regarding who should lead them, and they know how to classify a good leader and a bad leader. Now, the government's wouldn't push. The government's wouldn't push is to show you why this change improves children's understanding of politics and benefits society. And throughout my speech, I believe that I've showed you why this is. Now, to conclude my speech, this motion is not about forcing beliefs. It's about equipping the future generation with the skills to be able to choose the right leader in the future. It is about teaching them about political literacy so that wider misinformation doesn't happen in the future. And with that, I end my speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Call upon the Leader of Opposition to continue today's debate. You here?
Am I mandated to open my video camera?
Optional but encouraged.
Optional but encouraged. Alright, so before I begin my speech, I prefer my POIs to be typed in chat. So if you're OO, type POI from OO. If you're CG, type POI from CG, and so on and so forth. Alright, so that's cool. Give me a moment to gather my thoughts. Alright, so starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think OG is already necessarily losing this debate on 3 reasons. Number 1, they're not actively engaging with the motion. The only mechanistic analysis, the only mechanism that they gave you on what it would look like is that parents should discuss politics with their children. But note that the motion explicitly says actively discuss politics with their children. We're going to take this and we're going to explain why this wording of the motion, why this implication of the motion has necessarily more harm than benefit. Second of all, they have their cases based on a series of assertions made on the fact that people are going to care about politics. That few are going to care about politics in the first place. I'm going to tell you my characterization later why this is necessarily wrong. So what am I going to do in today's speech? First off, I'm going to be giving off the necessary characterization and the key characterization from what was missing from OG's speech. Second of all, I'll be dealing with the rebuttals by integrating it into my arguments. All right, so first of all, what is the key characterization for this debate? Note how OG gives off all this like analysis on why you're increasing political literacy for children and all that stuff. But note how they don't give the most important characterization, which is the characterization on the children's mindset in the first place. This is really important for 4 reasons. I think I'm just going to do the children characterization just so that I can get credited for it, right? Number 1, understand that OG comes up and brings a point saying that this is not about forcing politics on the children. This is about increasing political literacy. I agree that this is true. However, I claim that when you are a children, that sitting and children, making them we tell you years old, they haven't really developed yet. They haven't really like become very mature yet. We tell you that this is fine. We tell you that this is really important, and in fact, we should be prioritizing on other things such as like their mental health well-being and their mental health development over political issues. It's fine. I don't think governments impact necessarily stands because they don't really prove the importance of why it's very important, or why it's actually necessary to confide these children who are like very much, who are like still very irrational and still like it's still in their baby like mindset when it comes to the actual world, to actively engage in politics. We tell you on our side of the house, we actively promote and we actively support these children pursuing their own interests. Yes, like I'll repeat it again. Discussing politics is fine. Actively discussing politics, that's where the harm lies we're in. So why do we necessarily win in this first contention between PM and LO? We tell you that number one, we provide a necessary characterization to why children would not necessarily even care on politics. Which is to say that even if they manage to prove that their impacts are great, their impacts are huge, we tell you that they do so a more substantial characterization because the likelihood is way more than what they can ever prove. Second of all, we tell you that they still have not provided any mechanistic analysis on why necessarily political literacy is a good thing in children. Because we tell you that we still get political literacy on the outside of the house, but the difference is that the quality is much better. Children actively want to pursue their interests. Children who are actively interested in politics would actively even want to pursue in that. They're going to do more quality research. They're going to enjoy their life at the end of the day instead of a unintentionally forced ideology by their parents. Number three on why we win is that we necessarily prove why the impacts that we get on our side of the house, which is that the emotional well-being of the child is prioritized, and the emotional child's well-being is much more important than whatever political issues that we're going to get. We tell you that this is the metric that is more valuable than political awareness. We tell you that insofar that your mechanism or your characterization necessarily necessarily harms the children's emotional well-being, we tell you that we're going to take this debate. So on that note, I rest my case. Very proud to oppose.
Thank you very much, Leader of Opposition. Deputy Prime Minister.
1 second, setting my timer. I'll be starting in the next few seconds. All right, so I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. You're actively trying to push children to more misinformation from them learning through the internet instead of them actually learning from their parents. I'll elaborate on this statement more later. 2 layers to my speech. Firstly, is a layer of debutters to dismantle the entire case coming from side opposition. Secondly, is going to be providing one key point of contention in order to support motion given today. Moving straight into rebuttals, right? Your entire claim is regarding how children are too irrational to actually learn anything regarding politics in the first place, right? The fact that you're trying to say that actively discussing politics is something that is not achievable because of how irrational they are in the first place. We say that we're not trying to force these children to learn things like international trade relations at the age of 5. It means that we're trying to slowly integrate and actually indoctrinate these children to understand things like political systems, understanding things like how the general election functions, things like policies, values that we have to understand, especially when it comes to complex topics like this. We say that this is actually only achievable on our side because parents are pretty much the most trusted figure that they can understand. They can ask naive questions because they are the main trusted figure. Only in our side are you able to actually provide a proper education, because we are trying to enforce this on a large. We are trying to immediately enforce this. We said that we actually do this through a slow process because the entire idea is adamant on actually us trying to provide you political literacy for a long-term scale. That's what we're trying to push outside of the government, yet they try to distort our case and say something else. Furthermore, what is the entire argument actually about? You're trying to say that it's much more better to allow children who you have said are irrational to pursue their own political interests without early guidance from their guardians. We say that this is pretty much a very contradicting thing to say due to a few reasons. Firstly, understand that children pretty much have no capability of understanding the verification of sources, especially when they pursue learning on things like the internet. So they might be easy to be engaged in things like echo chambers, where their algorithm is filled with things like left-leaning politics. So that's pretty much counterintuitive for you to say that it's a much more better alternative to allow these students to learn themselves. Sure, we have on our side, we are able to provide interest we are able to give them that interest in the first place through engaging in these active political discussions. We make them much more interested to learn more about politics, especially when their guardians are talking to them about it in the first place. We say that your entire side actually makes it worse when we try to compare like the general impacts of both sides. On your side, things like, for example, misinformation do happen because these children are unable to verify things like sources. So we say that your entire argument falls from the get-go. Even if we were going to be charitable and say that, okay, these children are actually capable of actually understanding internet, right? We say that even then, it's a much more better alternative to allow children to learn gradually. Yeah, sure, before my arguments.
What is the actual mechanistic analysis on why children are incompetent and cannot think that they cannot provide the analysis?
Cannot what? Cannot provide what?
Please explain to us what is the actual mechanistic analysis on why children are incompetent and cannot take an assertive claim, actually provide the analysis.
What? Yeah, I don't understand your POI. So I'll just get into arguments and might just said. So we want to my one and only point of argumentation and how you're able to increase youth political literacy on a large scale. Why is it justified for these children to have political literacy in the first place? Firstly, we say that the essence of democracy depends on an informed voter base, which may only be achieved on site government due to a few reasons. We think that this cannot be achieved in status quo due to a few reasons. Firstly, things like political apathy already happen. The fact that these children lack interest because the fact that their parents never try to actively discuss this thing is also a key factor as to why political apathy exists, which is why you see things like voters no longer be interested in participating in the functioning democracy in the first place. Second thing is because they lack proper knowledge on how these democracies actually function in the first place. Although things like institutions and education do exist, oftentimes they are unable to provide effective education to children regarding the fundamentals of like understanding policies, verifying your sources, things that you have to understand about political ideologies. These are things that are not taught in the school system, and we can actually like teach these things much more effectively through parents, which I'll be elaborating more later. So, why is our side able to solve these issues in the first place? A few layers here. First layer, parents have a key role in providing early exposure in a safe environment. They have the trust of their children and can engage in these complex discussions to simplify the topic for these children. How are you actually going to be able to provide interest in these children if these children think that politics is a very complex issue? You slowly break it down by engaging in these gradual active political discussions. You make it sound like a simple and fun topic. And remember, it can be encompassed into daily life. Things that policies already have impacts on your daily life, like pretty much regarding employment, stuff like that can be taught to children in a simplified manner, which is pretty much why our side is able to achieve much more effective education rather than allowing children to pursue their own way of learning. Furthermore, children are also much more comfortable discussing these complex topics, such as politics, especially when they are with their parents. At that point in time, we say that it's a good learning outlet for them to pretty much get the general gist of what political literacy is like, what the things like election is in the first place. So, with that in mind, here's why parents are uniquely effective in comparison to other things like education. Another thing is that why it's better is schools often teach what the system is about. They don't actually dive into things like why certain values such as justice and equality matter in the first place. Political discussion actually helps provide an outlet for these children to learn regarding like moral reasoning, to learn regarding ethical perspectives, like what's most important. We need it especially in a democracy like Malaysia, right, where you see only 18, meaning like youth people are actually more compelled to vote from a young age. We see that from that perspective, the necessity of having an informed and responsible voter base becomes much more important. This can only be achieved because on our side, they are able to develop things like critical thinking when you engage in active political discussions, when you learn things like how to verify your political sources, to ensure that you are not engaged in like echo chambers. It allows for things like political and moral discussion to happen normally in society. We say that at that point in time, the comparative is simple. Side opposition as a world where, for example, you have things like low voter turnout, apathy to democracy, everything that you see that on your side, democracy can never be achieved properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. Deputy Leader of Opposition, to close the opening half of today's debate here.
All right. Let me arrange my papers. Meanwhile, while I do that, I would like to notify the fact that I'll be accepting my POIs in the chat. Excuse me. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we tell you the fact that side government is trying to frame a world where these children have to vote. But then on both sides, you can clearly tell on right now in the status quo, children are not voting yet. In fact, they have other burdens in their life, for example, the academics, curricular activities, and their own interests to focus on. And then that's all I have to say. Now, before I start my speech, I would like to notify the things that I'll be doing right now. First of all, is taking the refutations that I have collected, one argumentation, and I'm going to tell you why we win in this particular debate. First of all, on the responses. Side government has been focusing highly on misinformation, where they have to tell us the reasons why these parents, where the children are reliable on, have a lower chance of getting this misinformation. They're trying to talk to you guys. They're trying to emphasize the point that whenever it comes to parents, their level of political thinking is high, and we do agree on that. But at what level is it to the point that they can't gain misinformation?
because you can still see in the status quo, those who are voting, which are not children, still are able to gain misinformation. And then if you're going to say that children cannot, and then we can also see the fact that my POI, the POI that has been stated by my first speaker, which is the whole, what's the analysis on children that are able to cite source and are reliable, and is reliable towards their parents. They didn't tell us why these children cannot just go to the sites and just search it on their own. But then I'll be explaining that later on in my arguments. Other than that, if you actually take this point, you have to tell us in the reason why you will rather have a room where there's a lot of people who are aware about political problems than a room where not a lot of people, but those who are actually those who are actually interested in politics have a wider and better information towards politics comparing to the other room. We tell you that we focus on quality. We tell you that we focus on magnitude. Where on their case, they only focus on quantity, where they only focus on scale, where they only focus on the more people who are aware, the better it is. But then we tell you that that is false. And then why? First.
POI,
Yes?
out of the many millions of children in Malaysia, how many do you think are going to actually learn about things like politics instead of watching Brain Rot on YouTube?
All right. So we can see the wild assumption as stated by side government. They tell you that these children are not going to be politically interested in the political work. But then we can tell you the fact that a lot of people, well, if in Malaysia, you're trying to tell us that there are millions of children who are interested in brain rot, we can still tell you the fact that there are still going to be some who are interested in politics. We cannot tell you that they're going to have a fixed interest. We can still tell you that, sure, some people are going to be interested in politics, but politics shouldn't be something that's very important in their mindset right now. This is something that they shouldn't be focusing or highlighted in their own education, which they are having right now. Because why we tell you this? First, onto my argumentation. And this is the importance of the children pursuing their goals. What are the goals that we're trying to tell you in this debate? First goal, academic. Second goal, curricular activities. And third goal, their interests. Why do we tell you these? Because these are the things that are going to create them for the future. If you're going to improve on the future, which is what side government is trying to do, where they're going to have critical thinking, which we also have on our side. If you have interest, for example, in or yes?
If politics affects every aspect of a children's life, why should it be an important thing to learn, especially when policies have an impact on your daily life in the first place?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Okay. If politics affects the daily life of these children, why is it not important for them to learn this from a young age so they get understanding about it?
All right. Before I was trying to prove my point, if you want to know, children has other focuses in their life. For example, as I told you earlier, where they have to focus on academics, curricular activities, and interests. If you're trying to say that politics is important in their life, you have to know the fact that even if it is, okay, we both agree that politics is very important in both worlds. But then we tell you that the children shouldn't be focusing on politics right now due to the fact that they, first of all, as my first speaker stated, they have a weak mental health. What do you mean by weak mental health? They cannot comprehend a lot of information at the same time. We don't tell you that a lot of children cannot comprehend a lot of information. We just tell you that right now, children are at a state where they cannot handle too much information, where they cannot where they cannot contain too much overdrive of information. We tell you that this could cause a lot of harm towards these children. Also, not just that. We also tell you the fact that although these children are going to have political empathy as inside government's case, we also tell you the fact that these children are just going to learn politics due to the point that they're just trying to satisfy their parents. What do you tell you? My first speaker already told you the fact that they're just trying to be at peace with their parents due to the fact that in the motion, it's stated the fact that these parents or guardians are going to be actively discussing politics towards their children, meaning that these children, even if they don't care about politics, even if they don't think that politics is important in their life, they're still forced to learn about it. And if you say that this is still better, we tell you that no, because why? If you're trying to say that these kids already know about politics but don't really care about it, then tell us what's the use if you're not actually interested in something that you already know, if you're not going to use that thing at your own will. And also, we also build a better mindset due to the fact that these kids are able to improve on their goals, as I stated earlier, academics, curricular activities, and their own interests. We also win on political awareness. Why? Because if you actually have an interest in politics, where you don't need to rely on your parents, sure, you could also rely on your parents and have discussions. But then we also tell you that if you have a wider interest in politics, where you can go side source, where you can go and just learn about politics aside from other children, we can tell you that you can have a wider information due to the point that you're actually pursuing onto something that you're actually interested in. Tell me why you actually want to pursue something that you're not interested in life if you don't even like it at the first place. Why would you actually want to learn about it? Now, let's go talk about the debate in its whole. I'm sorry. Now, let's go talk about the debate in its whole. First of all, there's two discussions that has to be talked about. First discussion is about political awareness, where only the best thing that we can say from side government is that they're going to avoid the point of misinformation, where we both said the fact that first of all, how about the parents are very confident to the point that they don't have any misinformation. We tell you that the parents also have a chance of gaining misinformation. This happens a lot during votes, which is something that side government are trying to use as their example, which we can tell you has already been flawed. On our side, however, we focus on quality, where the people who are interested can actually pursue onto politics. Why? Because these children actually want to learn about politics. Where the children wants to learn politics, they actually want to have the courage to search, to have actual analysis, where they can go site searching, where they can actually go ask their own parents, where they can actually go and ask teachers onto towards these specific contents. Because why these children want to learn about politics, and we tell you that quality is better than quantity. Now, second class is about how we build a better generation. Onto a generation where a lot of people are just going to have a low quality of their academic curricular activities and interests. Why do we tell you this? Because they're too focused on politics when they're at a young age, where they're on age that they cannot focus on their academics and their other goals that I have been mentioning. We tell you that this actually ruins the generation due to the fact that they have to pursue these.
Time's up.
All right, sorry.
Thank you, T. Thank you, T. Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. To begin the closing half of today's debate, Member of Government, the floor is yours.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Imagine a world where children who are educated in politics. Imagine a world where there are leaders and proper leaders just because children are educated in politics. And we believe this is because parents discussing politics with children. Before I start my speech, I would like to clarify. In this debate, I'll be giving a proper case setup, because we believe that the opening government did not give a proper case setup on this debate. I'll give my arguments. I'll expand on my arguments, and I will tell you why that closing government should win this debate. Firstly, to define children, to characterize children are future leaders and are hope for the world, are hope for the future generations. And children have fresh minds. Secondly, to define parents are to characterize parents are trustworthy, especially to their children. And we believe that parents should discuss politics with children as parents are the children's first source in information and someone that they really trust. Political issues are involved in voting, elections, and parties, and we believe that political issues is a topic that is mature and that should be strongly educated and discussed with children. Before I give my arguments, firstly, we want to rebut opening opposition. Opening opposition said children has other burdens in their lives, and has less and would not be interested to learn politics as they are irrational. But we believe that if we educate children when they are older, high schoolers and teenagers will have more burdens than children, and children will have less burdens than high schoolers, which makes it a better reason why we should discuss politics with children. Opening opposition also said children are irrational, and we believe this is the reason why we should be discussing and educating about politics in the first place, for them to have a proper and a head start on these politics to make wise decisions in the future.
UI,
Mm. Yes.
children are generally defined as people in between the age of 3 to 18. What do you think is the best age to start teaching them politics?
We believe the best age to start. Thank you. We believe the best age to start teaching them politics is about around 10 to 12 to 15 years old, as they are not busy and as they have free time to learn. And children, and we believe that we should not teach children politics. Parents should not educate children politics when they're like young, but should educate them when they have a sense of when they have common sense and they are rational, when they have morality. Expand arguments. Firstly, why should children learn politics? This is because, as we know, 18 to 21 years old is the year for voting. And if we educate children in politics when they are free, if we educate children in politics, they will have a proper understanding and a head start and into politics and can make better decisions and wiser decisions when they are voting or for elections. We believe that parents should also take responsibility, and parents are the only way to discuss and educate children. As we said, children are trust their parents, and you can't really learn politics in school, as everyone has their own opinion on politics itself, and it's best to learn political issues with parents. And this is important for parents to teach children, as children are making so children can make better political decisions when they vote, and we're not rushed to learn about politics just as the time they need to vote, because it is most likely that children won't take politics seriously as when they are children, but then when they grow to become when they are becoming when they're going closer to the age that they need to vote, they will still they will not take politics seriously and just learn it and just knowledge themselves about it last minute. And we believe it's proper to give a early head start about politics to children, as children are the hopes of our future. Lastly, we also realize that children, you might say children can learn politics by themselves on social media, but can you actually trust social media? And probably the children won't be interested to learn politics on social media, or they won't be interested to learn. So it is important for the parents to discuss and properly discuss with the children about politics in a slow and proper way, instead of shoving politics into their head, into their throat. We're not shoving it down in the throat. We're discussing politics with children in a proper and a slow and steady way, and an understandable way that children won't be mentally. We're not teaching them politics. We're discussing with them about politics. And lastly, I would like to in this debate, I have given a proper argument, and I've expanded in my argument. We've given the reasons why it's proper to learn about, it's proper to be educated, it's good to be educated in politics. We gave our proper to be educated in politics, and why is it, and why parents should be the one discussing, as parents are also the main focus and children for this debate. And with that, if you stand with a proper and educated world, a proper and a world where wise decisions are made just because because of the children, and we believe that it's proper to train and give a head start to to children, as they are our future leaders and future people to make decisions for the world. And with that, I end my speech.
Thank you very much, member of government, member of opposition. The floor is yours.
Okay, I shall be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let it be known that as the opposition, we do not permanently say that the parents should not discuss with the parents. We believe that that parents should discuss politics with their children, but only, and I highlight this, only if it's within their interests. They shouldn't actively do it if the children aren't interested in it. And after that, I shall expand a bit on what the opening government said. So earlier, the opening government said a bit about negative impacts on children from these politics, but they didn't really go into depth about these negative impacts, and that's what I will be doing in this debate. So one of the negative impacts is that discussing politics with parents could cause stress and anxiety, because children may become stressed or anxious when they hear adults express strong opinions or uncertainty about political issues. Like if you heard your parents screaming at each other who to vote for, who is right, the children may feel stressed. And these parents may want to convince their children on their political beliefs more than that child wants to. And another negative impact on children is that they may get bullied, because, again, children, the role model of the parents, right? So then we're mostly going to follow with the parents' political views. But what if that parent has terrible political views? For example, what if that parent says, let's support Trump? I believe in Trump. Everyone knows Trump is not a good president, and we believe that the children will be bullied by other families and other children because they support Trump. But it's not the children's fault. They don't know better. It's basically the parents' fault.
You are
Yes. Yes.
in your speech, you said that they should actively discuss politics. But then, why would their parents bash their own children for having their own opinion?
No, I didn't say they should actively discuss politics. I said they should discuss it if it's within the interest of that child. And there are lots of types of people in this world. There's some good parents and there's some bad. But most parents force rules on these children, and us as children are mostly obliged to go through rules. I hope that satisfies your POI. And continuing. So earlier, the LO said I'm going to expand a bit on the LO argument earlier. He said that parents may have misinformation, that they can't fully rely on that. And we agree with that. We agree that parents may have misinformation, but what is it?
POI,
Yes.
what makes you think that a parent would actively bash their child, especially when they're trying to engage in a civil conversation teaching them about political literacy?
Okay. Can you please repeat that? It wasn't very clear. It wasn't very clear.
Oh, essentially, why would a parent bash their child for wanting to learn more about politics, especially when they're engaging in a civil conversation between an adult and a child?
I don't recall anywhere where I said a parent would bash the child for wanting to learn about politics. I just said that. No, actually, I don't recall anywhere where I said that. Anyways. So, it was it also, if we are actively encouraging parents to discuss politics with the children, then all the parents will discuss politics with the children. And what if these parents have these political views, and then these parents have these political views, so like A and B? If A tells his child about these political views, and B tells that child, and then the child of A and child of B meet, and then they argue about these political views, it would cause conflicts between these children over something that they aren't fully prepared for, or they don't really need to grasp quite yet. And I do agree with some of the government's points, the number of government points, where these children are future leaders, yes, the hope for the future, the fresh minds. But just because they're future leaders, it doesn't mean we have to educate them in politics. If they're truly future leaders, they themselves want to learn about politics. And that's all for me. For all those reasons, I am proud to oppose.
Thank you, Member of Opposition. Government Whip. Government Whip.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Imagine you're a child that has to be taught politics by their most trusted guardian and suddenly be pressured to vote for a leader, and that will lead to suddenly voting for a random leader like a robot. I'll be the government whip for this debate, and I will be telling my clash, my rebuttals, and I'll be proving to you why closing government will win this debate. So the clash here, I think that the clash here is urgency. We believe that the clash here is urgency versus sensitivity. Government wants children to learn to have a head start because once they have an idea on what is a good leader by their parents, since their parents are the most trusted guardian in their life since they are children. But again, we are not forcing these beliefs on the children. We are not subtly putting it in their brains and brainwashing them, just like that. And again, they will have an idea on what good leaders are from their parents because they have learned morality again. And again, I would like to say we're not talking about babies that are in kindergarten having nap times to slowly be involved in politics. And opposition don't want to keep
don't want children to learn about politics yet, to keep the purity of the children's minds, because politics are a sensitive topic. But really, as closing the member of opposition had said, if these parents are corrupted and they are a Trump supporter, then their children will be influenced by that and will also believe that Trump is a good president and etc. But really, our children's just machines that suck up every ounce of info. They should have learned morality from their parents because they are not fresh kindergarten. They're not fresh kindergartners who are still in school suddenly being shoved politics down their throat. And it's just parents giving their opinions. They are not obligated to suddenly follow their parents' opinion. They could also discuss with other people once they have matured, because we are not talking about babies here. And I believe that opening government hasn't given a good case of, and they have just stated on why children should know how to vote, but they haven't fully elaborated on why they should know how to vote. They should know how to vote so that they don't suddenly feel pressured when they have to vote and randomly vote around a person like a spinning wheel. If we teach them at an age where it's already too late and when they are not busy yet, they will eventually have an idea on what is a good leader and not suddenly be randomly voting and randomly taking a person's name as a leader, and that person will be the leader of our country and will lead our country into corrupt. And on children, and on saying that children might know on what politics are on social media, instead of listening to a random influencer's opinion on who is the best president and who to vote for during elections, they should have listened to their parents' opinion first, because that is their most trustworthy guardian in their life. They shouldn't be listening to some random guy on some social media app like TikTok or Instagram saying that, oh, this guy is the best president and everyone should vote on him. They shouldn't be teaching that. And if parents don't educate their children about politics, then these children will eventually learn on social media, because right now children are involved on social media at an early age. Some children are unsupervised and they will be on social media ever since they were 4 or maybe 6, and they will be influenced by content creators instead of their actual parents. As my first speaker said, it's important to give a head start on their decisions, because their decisions will matter in the future and will matter when they are suddenly, sooner or later, they will have to vote for a leader that will lead the country.
Yoi,
Yes.
my characterization has gone uncontested, saying that children are going to be emotionally irrational when they are still children. Why is it that when you confide in politics into a children, they are suddenly going to be able to get it and make more informed choices? Please explain.
We're not saying that children will ultimately get the idea like a son of robot. This is the reason why we are having this debate on discussing and education the children in the first place. We're not just giving a point like, oh, this is the good person. The parents should actually elaborate on it and actually make sure that their children understand what politics are, and not just randomly saying it like a first liner. And as my first speaker has said, politics aren't something that you can learn in school. Teachers won't just suddenly open up a book and tell you what elections are and what voting are. So this is why parents should be the one that are discussing politics and not children and not schools or anything, because schools won't have this as a subject. So parents should be the one that are implementing this into their children. So we have okay. So okay. That's the end of my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Government Whip, for wrapping up government's half of today's debate. Opposition Whip, here.
Give me a minute to organize my thoughts. I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. The closing government side has been putting off most of the arguments from the opposition side. What do I mean by that? I will explain in my rebuttals. But my speech is divided into 3 parts. A brief summary of what has happened in the closing half of this debate, my rebuttals, and why the closing opposition should win. Okay, first for my summary. On our side, on the closing opposition side of this debate, we have spoken about the negative impacts of politics in the children, and we have also proven why the leader of closing government is wrong. For the closing government side, they have spoken about the same. They have spoken about why parents should educate children, in politics. So now moving on to my rebuttals. The leader of closing government has said that children will have a proper understanding when they are younger, but that is not confirmed, as politics is a complex subject where if you don't understand one topic fully, you won't be able to grasp the entire subject. And if children do have proper understanding, then why don't parents teach children about politics in the first place? That's the point. She also said that parents are trustworthy to teach children about politics. For some reason, she said that everyone will have different political views, implying that for example, her father has a political view of A, and her mother has a different political view of B. What is she supposed to choose? Which side is she supposed to take? That's why we're saying that children should not be educated in politics, because they are not ready to make critical decisions in life. And when the leader of closing government said that children should learn politics with their parents slowly and properly, it still would mean that the children will fully understand these complex terms. And
You are.
yes,
Isn't the entire purpose discussing politics with your children to teach them about political literacy?
well, yes, it is. But like I said earlier, when everyone has a different political view, who are the children supposed to side on? What are they supposed to, how are they supposed to express their opinions? Clearly, when they are too young to have to do that. Okay, going back to what I said earlier, where the leader of the government said that children should learn politics slowly and properly. Even if they learn slowly and properly, if they don't have any interest in politics, they wouldn't understand anything anyways. So that's why in our side of the in our side of the debate, it's better if you explore, if you embark on your duty to learn with interest what politics actually is. That firstly will give you a better understanding, and secondly, you will learn far more than what your parents teach you. Now, for my second, they said that parents have a bigger knowledge of politics, but that is not necessarily true. If they did have a bigger view of politics, then let me rephrase it. It doesn't necessarily mean that parents have a good view of politics. I'm sorry. So moving on, the government whip had said that it's good to have a head start in politics, but again, children at a young age, they wouldn't have a full understanding. They wouldn't necessarily have a full understanding of what politics really is from parents. And secondly, but when parents discuss politics with their children, it's implying that they are forcing them to. And then you said, and then they said that they're not forcing them to. So then, why would they discuss with them about politics anyways? Okay, moving on. They had said that if the parents are corrupted, then how would then they were implying that the children would always take the parents' opinion. So, but how is that possible? How is that confirmed when they are just children? Children wouldn't know when to make their own decisions because they are rational. On the other hand, they're saying if we teach children too late, they will have their own opinions and they will make they will have their own opinions and they will choose their own leaders. But I agree that we should teach children to late in their life because then they will have a better understanding of how politics actually works. And with that, I'm quite opposed.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's debate. This round's debate. You guys can cross floor, shake hands, turn on camera, say hi to each other, whatever. Give me 15 minutes to come and deliberate, and then I might be earlier. But yeah, give me 15 minutes. Thank you, guys. Bye. See you in 15 minutes.
Anas.
Yo, what's up?
Afan team apa? Afan.
Arfan is SAS D. His team with Faris Aryan.
Oh, this father.
Yeah. You still remember? Oh, I was literally going to ask you like after this round if you still remember me as Arfan's teammate.
Apa?
I was actually going to ask you like after this round if you still remember me as Arfan's teammate.
I know. That's why I still remember you last year.
Yo, what's up guys?
Jangan, ni jangan.